Hello! In this video we're going to go over how to create graphs from data from a database. So the database we're using is a MySQL database, and we'll go over the imports that you'll need now. So you'll need to have installed Matplotlib to make the graphs, the MySQL connector to connect to the database, and you may want to have import config. I'm using this to protect the password for my database, and you may need import random. So I have randomly generated this data. It's about students, and in this table, so the database is called SchoolDB and the table is called students, and in this table we have four columns. We have first name, second name, subject, and score. So each student has their first name and second name. They're enrolled in one subject and they have a score assigned to that. Alright, so this function, I'm not going to go over. This function, which has been commented out, was just a random student maker which would randomly generate some data for me. So I'll leave that in case you guys want to follow along, but that's what we need import random for, was just to randomly select some names and subjects there. So we'll ignore that for now, but that's how I got my data. So we'll obviously need to make our database connection object, and there is a video on the channel on how to do this. But you need your password, your host IP or localhost, and the user and the name of the database that you want to edit. You'll also need to create a cursor object as well, and I've made a create table if not exists line here just to create the students table. But we're here to create graphs, so let's go get into it then. So we'll make a bar chart first, and this bar chart will have will be subject specific, and will be about we'll have the names of the students on the x-axis and their scores in the subject on the y-axis. Okay, so we'll define a function. Okay, and we're going to call it create score bar chart, because that's what we're making, a score bar chart. And we're going to try and make this generic. A generic function means that it can be a usable function. A non-specific, a generic function means that we're not going to hard code everything. So this function ideally will be able to handle any subject that we put through it. So that's why we're going to put subject as an input here. And let's begin then. So we'll need some SQL, and we'll need SQL here to get. We need our scores, our first names and our second names from the table. We don't need the subject because we already know the subject that we're going to be talking about, because the user has inputted the subject, if you like. So we're going to do select first name, comma, second name, comma, score from students where subject even equals %s. Okay, and if you've seen my create, retrieve, update, delete video, %s is a wildcard value. So we're gonna put in our actual variable in there, and yeah. So we'll now write the execute command. So it's my cursor dot execute, and let's do get score SQL, because that's what we're executing. Now, what are we going to pass in? We're going to pass in subject. And you might ask, well, what is subject? Well, subject is the value being inputted by the user, or what's being passed to the function here. Okay, so what does that mean? So if we say chemistry, now there's 3 subjects. I don't know if you caught them all, but we're using biology, chemistry, and computer science as the 3 subjects. So let's say if chemistry was put in here, then it will be select first name, second name, score from students where subject equals chemistry. Okay, so let's keep going. Right. So now that we have our data, we're going to need our my results. We're going to need a variable to store our data. So we'll call it my results. We'll call it my cursor.fetch. And since we're getting multiple rows back, we need to use fetch all. Okay. So now that will return our first name and our second name. Now ideally you want to have first name and second name be all one name. So we're going to go and process this data, and we're also going to append the scores to a list instead of this 2D list that's this 2D list that's returned to us through fetch all. In fact, I'll show you that now. If we do print my results at the moment, and if we call the function creates bar chart and then pass in chemistry as the subject, and then we run it, we can see that we get all the students studying chemistry, but you can see that we have a list of tuples. So this is essentially a list of tuples, so it's a 2D array. So we don't really want, we kind of want 2 lists here, because the bar chart function needs 2 lists. So we want 2 lists, so one containing the names and the other containing the scores. So we're going to need to format our data here. So let's do that. Okay, so let's begin that. So we'll do no, we'll not do that first. We'll do a list of full names, because of course we need our full names there. And we'll need our scores, so our list of scores. So there we go. Making our scores here. Lovely jubbly. And now we will go about iterating through this data. So we'll do for person in my results. Okay. Now, so what is this person? So person is every tuple in this list, and I keep saying the word tuple. A tuple is kind of like a list, but with round brackets instead of square brackets. And I know that's not the only difference between them, but for the sake of simplicity, you could consider them like that for this tutorial. So, okay, so we're going to iterate through. I'm going to say full name equals person square bracket 0 plus and then a space character. So we'll do plus and then a space character plus person square bracket 1. Okay, so that's gonna take the first element and the second element and add them and concatenate them together. So this will give us our full name. So then we do full names dot append full name. Okay, cool. So then we want to do scores dot append, and then we want to take that last value there, which is person square bracket 2, because remember we're referring to 0, 1, 2. So there's our score there. Okay, cool. So now that we have that, we have our 2 lists. We have what's going on the x-axis, which is the names, and what's going on the y-axis, which is the scores. We can now make our bar chart. So plot dot, plot dot, plot dot bar, plot dot bar, and then we're gonna open our brackets up, and what we're gonna pass into this bar chart function is we're gonna pass in our full names, what's going on the x-axis, the scores, which is going on the y-axis. We're going to align and make it center, so all of our bars are in the center, and center should have a lowercase c. And we're also going to set the transparency of the bar to be 0.5. Again, this is cosmetic. You can change this if you'd like, and I go into more detail on this in the bar chart video. without the database connectivity. And I'm also going to put the color to set to B. So that's going to be blue. It's going to be blue bars, okay? Again, cosmetic. So plot.xticks. So what we need is just full names, comma, full names. Okay. Now you might be confused by that. That's just the at each x position, what's going to be put there. So we're going to put a full name there. Okay. You'll see once the bar chart's been made. We'll also do plot dot y labels. We're going to be labeling our graph here. A good graph always has labels in the x, y, and for the title. So we'll do plot.y label. We're going to label the y score. We're going to label the x. We're going to label the x full name. Okay. Again, you can change these. Okay. Full name. And now the plot.title. Okay, so this is going to be our title of our plot. We're going to call it subject. Oh, sorry, not as a string, sorry. So we're going to take the subject variable. So, and remember the subject variable's been passed in by the user. So in this case, if we were calling it the function here, we're passing in chemistry here. So if we do that, so we're just going to say chemistry's class scores, okay? So that's going to be the title. And then we'll just do plot.show to show this lovely graph to everybody. Plot.show. Okay, now I'm getting red lines. That is because I'm missing my plus in my concatenation. So there we go. Now if we run this, we get an error here. Let me see. So it's complaining about the alpha value. That's because I've passed in a string instead of the number. Okay, so sorry about that. Make sure that's a float. There we go. Okay, so we've got our bar chart here. So looking at that, that looks quite nice. Our blue bars are spread out, and we can see that chemistry, the variable, has been passed through. Okay, now if we have a look here, we do select all from students where subject equals chemistry, and we run this, we get our chemistry scores. So I know that that x-axis looks quite muddled there. That's just because the show is a little minimized, so it's just gonna compress everything. But if you scroll the window out, you can see that the names are there. So you can see that Gareth has got 1 point there. You can see Alex Colgan has 57. You know, so the bar chart matches the data in the database there. Okay. Okay, so that's our chemistry bar chart done. Now, what's excellent about our function here is that we've written it in such a way that we can do it for any subject. So this is the power of making our functions generic. So remember I mentioned we had 3 subjects. So if I do create score bar chart biology and do create score bar chart computer science, and then we run it, you'll see that there's chemistry first, and since we're using plot.show, where the program hangs until the program logic hangs until we close this window. So once we're done showing, so we've shown it, lovely, okay. Then we can see we've got our biology class scores there. Now note we haven't written any more new code, apart from obviously the function call. That's because we've written this function generically, and it's a good programming practice because it saves on lines of code and makes your code nice and efficient. So Here's our biology class scores, and then if we close this, we'll get our computer science scores. Great, okay. So that's all good. I'll get rid of this print statement here, but you can see all the data coming in there from our database. Okay, so that's that. Now, if you want to save instead of showing it to the user, maybe you want to save it as a PNG. You can do that by doing plot.savefig and then the name of the file. So I like to just copy the title, but of course each to their own when it comes to that. So when we run this here again, we just close. You can see that the images have appeared here, so we can check the biology one, the chemistry one, and the computer science one. All excellent there. Now, do note that if you have plot.show before the savefig and you run this, you will get save white PNGs. That's because .show is essentially consuming the graph. So if you want to save a figure, save a graph, and show it to the user through the matplotlib show GUI, you need to put the plot.show after the savefig. So I'll just run that one more time just to make sure that all of the the graphs are there and we're not looking at white images. And do note that they will overwrite if you have savefig there and the string matches a file in the directory, then it will overwrite the file essentially. So we note we're not getting multiple PNGs, we're just getting 3 there. Okay, so that is our bar chart done. Great. So now we can move on to our pie chart. So I'm just going to comment out these calls here because we don't really want to be calling that now that we're moved on to our pie chart. So this pie chart is going to be about essentially the split between the 3 different subjects. So it's going to be a pie chart of the number of students in each subject. So create pie chart is the function. Okay. We're going to pass in an array list, a list called subjects. Now we need to define subjects. So subjects is just going to be, I'm just defining it up here. We're just going to define it as chemistry, biology, and computer science. Just to save time. Now, we know that this is essentially, the subjects are just going to be our labels. And in fact, we can obtain that data from the database, but to save time and worry, we'll just use them here. So we need to get. So what are we trying to do? We're trying to get the number of students taking a certain subject. Okay. And then we're going to take those values and I'm going to make them in a pie chart. So how to get the data? Well, what you could do is you could say something like select all from students where subject equals and then the %s. Okay, and then what you would do then is you would iterate through and then you would count the number of people. And in fact, you would then take that and then you would have to programmatically count it. Or you could even do select all from students and then just go through iteratively through the data and just count the number of people in each subject. But what we can do in SQL is there's actually a keyword called count, so we're going to use that instead. So we're going to say select count, and then we're going to need the whole row. So it doesn't really matter. So we're going to do select count and then bracket star, okay, from students where subject equals %s, okay. Right. So let's not enable this SQL. Let's just call it get count, okay? So get count, right? And our values, we need a list to store our values here. So for subject in subjects, so we're going to iterate through this list of subjects here. So we're going to say for subject in subjects, my cursor dot execute. Get count, because that's the name of our SQL, and then we're just going to say subject. Okay. Now do note, or do remember, that if you're passing in one variable into the SQL, you're still going to need to pass it as a tuple, so you're going to need that trailing comma at the end there. So just bear that in mind there. Okay, so we've done that. Okay, so what is this code doing? Well, we're taking this SQL statement and then we're iterating through the subjects list, which I showed you there. So chemistry first, my cursor dot, so we select count, so select the number of students where subject equals chemistry, essentially. So we're gonna get our data there, but it's gonna be a bit cleaner than doing it using Python, and it takes advantage of SQL and database languages and things. So we'll do it like that. Okay. Right. So we've done our execution, but we need our data. So we'll do count equals my cursor dot fetch 1. Okay. Now we need that. Okay. So, we'll do that. Okay, the reason why we need that, of course, being that we're only going to get one piece of data back, because we're only going to get the number for that particular subject. We're not going to get the count for all 3 subjects in one go. We have to iterate through, so that's why we use fetch 1 there. And then we're just going to append values.append and then the count, okay? So let's print that out and let's see what we have. Let's see what we're looking at once we do that. Now we also have to call our function here. So just to create pie chart subjects, okay? Yep, and then we'll run it now. So we get 9, 6, and 5. Okay? 9, 6, and 5. Now do note that they're in a tuple, so we're going to need to get them out of a tuple. And to do that, since fetch 1 is still returning a tuple, okay, we need to just access that that number. So this right now is like a 2D list, because it's storing a list of tuples. We just want a list of numbers or integers. So what we do is since the value is in the first position in the tuple, we just need to access that value. So instead of doing count equals my cursor dot fetch 1, we'll do my count equals my cursor dot fetch 1. That returns the tuple. But if we do bracket 0, that index means that we're gonna get the number. So when we run this here, we get the list of integers. Okay, so my cursor dot fetch 1 returned a tuple in that case. So then we're gonna just access the first element of that tuple and save it. We don't really care about the tuple itself, we just need the number. So we've got our list of numbers there. Happy days. So we're going to keep going now. Delete that print value there. Okay. So plot.py. Okay. Now, I love Matplotlib. It makes everything so simple. Just plot.py, plot.bar. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. Now, values. Okay, that's what we need. That's what we have, our values. Now, remember that a pie chart doesn't have an x and a y axis. It takes one input there, which is the numbers. We're also going to need our labels. Okay. So this is going to be what we're calling this is what we're going to be labeling each segment with. So subjects. Okay, we're going to use subjects because remember our subjects here are our labels. So okay, and make sure if you're doing this, make sure the order of the data and the order of the labels match. Okay, so in our case it doesn't matter because we're ensuring order by iterating through, but if that isn't the case, just make sure that you have your things in order. So we have 9 chemistry students, 6 biology students, and 5 computer science students. And obviously that's correct because there's 5 inputs in the computer science, 5 names in the computer science graph. So it's in the right order. It's just that that if you were writing some code and the numbers and the labels aren't in the right order, it's going to affect the pie chart. So just ensure that they're ordered correctly. Okay, so we also need to color our pie chart. No use pie chart with no color. So you need at least the number colors equal to the number of segments in your pie. So the number of labels essentially. So we have 3 segments because we have 3 subjects. So we need 3 colors. So we're gonna pass in red. We're gonna do green, and we're gonna do blue. Now these colors. I should mention here that these colors are are pre-built in Matplotlib. You can use any color you'd like using hexadecimal and things, or by using you can do like turquoise and emerald and things like that for the colors, but longer words, or you can just use hexadecimal. But these would be our most primitive and just the ones I'm going to use here. But yeah, anyway, so that's our colors. Now if you do want a full more detail into the customization of pie charts, there is another video on the channel called Pie Charts, which you can view, and that will talk about exploding segments of your pie chart and things like that, more customization and things. But for now we're going to stick with this. And of course, so that's our colors. So we've got our values in, we've got our labels in, we've got our colors in. We now need to think about one last thing, which is some values, because we don't have initially the pie chart won't have numbers in it, that like in the bar chart, unlike the bar chart where there's an x and a y axis. So we're gonna actually need to put the numbers in. So this is where auto PCT comes in. So it's just that stands for auto percentage, and it's just going to generate a percentage value of the amount that segment takes up with the full pie, and then display it to the user. So you'll understand whenever I do it here. So what am I typing in here? Well, this is just formatting. So we're essentially saying we want in this we need we're going to calculate the percentage to 1 decimal place. We're saying 1.1 1 decimal place percentage sign, and then that's sandwiched between 2 percentage signs. That's just the way Matplotlib is with formatting, so we'll stick with that. Okay, now we'll do plot.title. Okay, now plot.title, and this is going to be the number of students per subject. Excellent. And then we'll do plot.axis plot.axis, which is equal. Okay, so that's just going to mean that the pie chart is centered lovely in our plot.show here. Okay, so now when we run this, we can see that we have our data here. So we have 45% chemistry students, 30% biology students, and 25% computer science students. So if there are sorry, where did that go? So if there are 20 students in total, which there are, because I set the random student maker to 20. There's 20 students. That should add up, because if we print values and we run this again, we have 9 chemistry students, 6 biology students, and 5 computer science students. And 6 plus 5 is 11, plus 9 is 20. So that's everything accounted for. You can see the labels here, and you can also see the percentage signs there, which is great. And again, you can do plot.savefig, and then just put in the name of the file, and then run it again, and then we get our image output there. So yeah, we're writing or creating graphs from data held in a database is nothing to be scared of, and it's quite enjoyable to do, actually. I hope that helped. There'll be a code download in the description, and until next time, thanks for watching. Goodbye.